How's
Okay.
it going, everyone? It is Prashan here. We have something a little bit different than our normal Marvel Snap video. Instead, I'm going to interview DJ Benhameen. I've been watching and listening to their podcast, For All Nerds, forever. I don't know. I'm a huge fan. I listen to them weekly. He's definitely an inspiration. And he has a comic book that is coming out pretty soon, and we're going to talk about it. So, do you want to intro yourself to the people here?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. First of all, my name is DJ Benhameen. As you said before, I'm the host and one of the co-hosts of the For All Nerds show, a geek and pop culture show. I mean, sorry, I've been doing a lot
You're good.
today. A podcast dedicated to geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color, as we like to say. The multicultural maestros, a bunch of other things. But yeah, that's me and Tatiana King, and we've been doing this show for 10 years. We just had our 10-year anniversary last year, and we do a lot of big things. So you can check us out all over the internet at For All Nerds. Just type it in, and we come up. Make sure you hit follow and subscribe on everything. Whatever your favorite platform is, we out there. And like you said, I'm also I do a lot of things. As I said, I'm DJ Benhameen, but right now we're here to talk about, I write a little bit, and I wrote a graphic novel that is dropping this year, July 30th, from Titan Publishing, entitled Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze, and it's a space opera that features Jimi Hendrix, and I'll tell you more about it as we get into it.
So that's pretty awesome. Like, as far as Jimi Hendrix, why did you pick him out of all people?
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? So how did it come about? How did you come about writing this or being involved?
Yeah, I didn't pick him. Well, it was Jimmy picked me, basically,
Okay.
is how it goes. Yeah, my writing partner, Mello Brown, who I've written with on American Gods, and we've just been friends and brothers for years now, forever and a day, basically. He hit me up one day. He'd been writing the Blade Runner comic for Titan Publishing already, and so they asked him, did he have a pitch for this Jimi Hendrix graphic novel that they'd been working on developing for years, and he hit me up. He was like, yo, you're my bro, and I know you all about music, and I have this idea and some stuff I want to talk about. And so we started, pitching back and forth, and we both had some ideas on it. And so that's how we got the job, as we pitched back to Titan and to Jimi Hendrix's estate, because this is all through Titan Publishing involved with the Hendrix estate. So
Right.
we had to pitch to them, and that's how this came about.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. I know when it comes to like comic book writing and like comics in general, like some of your influences as far as like comic books growing up? Because I know with me, like I was born in the 80s, so like growing up in the 90s, like I'm all about like the original X-Men, like the cartoons coming up. Like I'm pretty sure Spider-Man, Batman, and X-Men are my favorite, because obviously those were the cartoons that basically I grew up with. So what are some of your comic book influences when it comes to writing and creating?
That's a great question. I think this is the first time I've been asked that one. And I don't know. Well, I don't want to say some of them, because it's pretty much everyone. I'll say that. Well, I started, I've been reading comics forever, and the first major like addiction that I had was definitely X-Men. And so it was Chris Claremont is one of my big ones, because of his whole long run on X-Men. And then I could list so many, but just a few. I would say Chris Claremont, Peter David. Peter David did a run on Incredible Hulk and on X Factor that are both some of my favorite comics ever. Grant Morrison, just because he's the god. And there's just so many I could list by Grant. Well, not he, they're the god. Let me be right. Grant Morrison, they're the god. And there's so many by Grant I could talk about. Today I was talking about Brian K. Vaughan. And then there's others who, like, since I'm mentioning people, let me mention Dwayne McDuffie, because Dwayne McDuffie at Milestone Media and what he did on Justice League Unlimited is just some of my favorite writing of all time. And then it goes beyond comics, obviously, because I do a lot of film and TV writing, and I grew up just as much addicted to film as I did to comics. Like I wanted to be a film director from a very young age and write films and all of that type of thing. So it's so many, you know. I'm definitely big influenced by Tarantino as a script writer. Man, I don't know. I mean, I'll shout out Kieran Gillen. That's my dude. Okay. Al Ewing. Like, there's a lot of modern people who I fuck with very tough, and some of them have become my friends throughout the show. So it's interesting. Yeah. But Kieran is definitely a big influence on me. Al Ewing is one person who I just think is absolutely killing it with everything they're doing right now. So I'm just always hype about them. Eve Ewing. Damn, I could go on, and I don't want, I was like, I don't want to miss anybody's name, but totally there's so many people, man.
So, like, is there anything that you're reading right now, like, that's like piqued your interest?
Yes, and that's another person who I've never really read their stuff, but I just started reading them, and I need to read more of them now because of it. James Tinian. And I'm reading The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, which is one of my favorite books out right now. This is the second time today I mentioned it. And it's by James, and the art is by my boy, Isaac Goodhart. I always do that. Isaac. No.
Moon Knight.
Isaac Goodhart. Yeah. No, not by Moon Knight, but Isaac Goodhart, who's an amazing artist and a good friend of mine. And I'm just always very hype about him because he's grown so much as I've watched him, as I've known him over the years, and I think they're just absolutely destroying it on Chaos right now. So, the oddly pedestrian life of Christopher Chaos.
Yeah, like right now I'm reading like all the X-Men stuff, which is crazy.
Yeah, of course. I mean that goes without saying.
I think I'm reading Superior Spider-Man, the spectacular Spider-Man just came out. The one issue number 1. I think Spider-Punk issue number 1 came out.
I didn't get a chance to read that.
I haven't read it. I bought it.
I don't think I did. Yeah.
But like the X-Men titles, sometimes it's like too much. So like
it's
like
a lot.
1 week I'll get like 2 books, and then like the next week I'll get like 10, and I'm like, oh, I gotta read all this. And then like X-Men Red is probably like my toughest read to get through because it's so wordy. So like it's like
good.
It's good, but it's like Shakespeare for X-Men. So it's like it takes forever. I'm like crap. X-Men Red. I got to read through all this, but it's so good.
The resurrection of Magneto is even worse.
For sure.
Al Ewing is like pulling out all.
I have this next to me right now.
I read annotations and I miss so much. Yeah, there's so much. Ooh, that's a dope cover. Damn, I never saw that cover.
It's a negative space cover. I need to get it graded.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I need to get it graded.
Yeah. I read annotations on X-Men, Resurrection of Magneto, and I've missed so much because it's a lot of Kabbalah faith stuff, and I don't really know that ish. So
it's a lot. It's like, head. Gosh, man, it's a handful to read. So if like you're getting into it now, then good luck.
Yeah, no, I loved his X-Men Red. Though. I get why people think it's a little dense and a little. It wanders too. I'll give it that. Like I feel like he didn't have enough time to get all the stories he wanted to tell out, and that was a problem. But that also might be a problem with pacing them.
Right.
But I still enjoyed it a lot.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want them to be back in the mansion after all of this. That's what I feel like.
That's just my only worry, man. And I don't know what's going to happen, and I really hope what Tom Brevoort, I'm not sure, the new editor coming in has said. What he said or they've said, I've been really like, okay, I'm at least going to check it.
Right.
But this has been one of my favorite. This goes up there with Claremont and Morrison.
For sure.
Easily for me. Yeah, this has been like one of my. I've reread some of this stuff so many times. Like,
it sucks that it's so short. It seems like it's a short era of X-Men. They didn't get to.
But it's been like 5 years, though. You know, it really has been a pretty long era comparatively. You know, like I don't think Grant Morrison went on for 5 years.
True.
Like,
I don't know. I guess it just feels short because it's coming to an
end. It does, because it's so mind blowing and so different than anything. That's what it is to me. It's like it's different than even Morrison was really dope, but it was like flipping Claremont stuff, you know. But this was like a next level of flip where it was so
for sure.
Yeah.
And then with your writing process on Hendrix, how did you approach it? Did you do like a lot of research? Did you put like your own spin on things? Like how did you go about it?
All right. Well, there's like that's a great question. Thank you, and that's like it's a lot to it. But it started first, like I said, we were told by the Hendrix estate and by Titan and our editor David that they didn't want to do a straightforward biography. They wanted it to be space or fantasy, type stuff. And so that was like, well, that was pretty much the only mandate we had in coming up with our idea. And so then we came up with this pitch, and that was basically me and Mello just doing how we always do. We get on a Zoom. Mello lives in LA, so I'm in New York. And so we get on a Zoom, and we just chop shit for an hour or so. I mean, 3 hours, probably 3-4 hours, I think some of our meetings drove on. Yeah, but that's, I mean, to be honest, a good if it's a 4-hour meeting, 2.5 hours or 3 hours of that is just us talking about everything else going on, like things we've been watching, music, just everything. And then the last hour is us, okay, we got to write this comic book. And so then we just, buckle down and shoot our ideas back and forth. And the basic, there's a lot of stories in the Jimi Hendrix graphic novel that we tell, but one of the main themes about it is finding yourself and finding the music within you and finding the connection back to that music or that creative spark within you. And then it's also a tale of someone finding their blackness again, like finding their purpose again. And so those were the two main themes I would think that we were starting with. And so that's where we started with. And then it was a lot of things because it involves music and it involves rock and roll and it involves black music. There were a lot of things that I personally wanted to talk about because it was just things that I've had in my head all my life that, about black music that I just wanted to express. And so I was like, okay, here's a chance to express it. And so then it was like, okay, how can I express these things? And there were things Mello wanted to talk about blackness. Like Mello's main thing was we got to make this as black as possible. And that was also a main thing for me was really recognize that Jimi Hendrix is an iconic black figure. And we feel like he doesn't get recognized as much as that. It feels like one of them racial draft things where the white people were like, nah, we going to take Hendrix.
They just put him in hot topic.
We going to hold on to Hendrix and we'll give y'all Eminem, and it was like, no, we don't want the black delegation does not accept that trade. And so that's what we've been doing is really, and that's one thing we pitched. Is I pitched it as, when I was talking to the state, I said that Prince is who I grew up on. That was my god of everything as far as music. But when it comes to guitar playing, I always say it's Jimmy or Prince as the number 1 and 2. And I really don't care where you put them, but just make sure you put them both there. And I see Hendrix gets that love a lot, but then sometimes he doesn't, and that's unacceptable to me. So that was one of our things that we just wanted to make sure people understood how black he was, what he was about, why he was who he was, and then we just wanted to tell a tale of somebody finding themselves and finding their blackness again and finding that spark and finding that energy that drives all of us, through life.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think, like, one of the reasons why I started making content is because I didn't see people that looked like me play the game of Marvel Snap. So I was like, I feel like if there's more representation, then more people that look like me or more other people that feel like that they're left out, that they could play the game, they could feel included. And I feel like, yes, like there's a small space where we're not accepted, or it's hard to explain. We're not as credible. I feel like our credibility might be downgraded just because of who or what we look like.
And that's dope, man. I really props to you for doing that. I played Snap for a little bit, but I was like, I can't, because I'll be on my phone all day playing this shit. And I'm like, I can't do it. And so anything Marvel related, I can't, dig into that much, because I will play it too much, because I just love all the characters and all that type of ish. Yeah, so I was like, nah, I'm good. So, but that's very dope of you to do that. And like I said, that's something else that this book is really talking about is being in spaces. I don't want to give too much away, but it's just about, it's about that, and it's about reclaiming things. That's something I really wanted to do is like, I told Mello, and we have this artist, Tom Mandrake, who really just, I cannot talk enough about what Tom Mandrake and what Justin Prokovich, those are our two artists, Thomas the penciler and letterer, basically the illustrator as they call them nowadays, and Justin did the colors. And they just absolutely turned our words into some of the most beautiful imagery you'll ever see. And some of the imagery that I wanted personally was I want to reclaim that imagery of the dude standing on a dragon playing the guitar, and it's always a white guy, on the side of the van type shit, and so I wanted to reclaim that and have those type of images with a black man in space, which is something else we don't get to see. And that was another thing that we really leaned into was black people in space and seeing black people in space. And man, I just can't get over it, what Tom did. I just keep talking about that because we wrote a universe and then Tom visually creates this universe that feels so lived in, feels so just put together. You can see the whole ecosystem of things. It's a lot going on in this book, and it's really beautiful, and I'm just really proud of what we did and then what they did. It's just, I thank them all the time.
Gotcha. And then, speaking of universes, do you plan on expounding on your comic book venture, making more comics in the future, like your own IPs?
Oh yeah. This was my first time writing a comic, but I loved it. I loved it so much. I definitely plan on. I'm talking to some people right now, and as the book gets released, and I can show people it, and it should lead to more work. But yeah, I plan on definitely either way, one way or the other. If it's not for someone else, I'll put out my own books soon enough because I loved it. It's just so dope to me. I think it's just such a dope medium to work in when you. The only budget is what the artist can draw on a page, and that's something that really is really dope. And that's something we really did too. And I hope we got it as much as. I mean, there's always more to do, but I really wanted to do things in this book that you can only do in a comic book. So there's just a lot of little visual tricks and things that I think we played well with that only work in comic books. So I'm really hyped to see all that. It was just a lot of things, like I say, when you grow up reading comics all the time that you just want to put into a comic. And so there's stuff that I didn't get to put into this one, so I'm going to have to do it on my next one. That's another reason why I have to write more comics, because there's stuff I didn't get to put into it. Like, I didn't get to have a shot of when the lettering is like the sound effect and it's the action all at once. Wow. It's kind of different. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to explain, but it's something I've seen a lot in comics, and I didn't. Might have seen it in this one, we didn't get that in.
Recently.
Yeah, it'll be like boom, and like the characters will be moving through the boom type of thing.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, it's been done. It's been done, and I was suggesting it, but we didn't work that in, but we worked in Trust. Oh man, no, Tom Mandrake.
How many issues
I can't
is it, by the way?
It's 122 pages of actual. It's one whole hardcover.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's one big hardcover. It's going to be released all at once. July 30th, you get the whole thing at once. It's a big oversized hardcover, and like I say, Tom's there's a 2-page spread to start it. There's opening page and then a 2-page spread after that. That is, I can't wait to see it in print. It is so majestic. It's so visual. It's just, there's so many more stories right on that 2 pages that I could tell or anyone could tell. It's just pure Tom just drawing stuff that we were like, okay, da 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 da, and then Tom just expands on it in a way that I would have never imagined until I saw him do it. And fuck, man, it's crazy.
So I'm assuming that like comic book writing is probably something you would lean more into compared to like film, just because like you could push the creativity and like do more visually.
I don't know. I'm actually, me and Mello are working on writing an independent movie this year.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll see. It's more just, and I'd like to do all of it because I still haven't had, Mello's had scripts produced, so he's seen through that stage. I still have, just been in a lot of scripts unproduced, so I'd like to get some produced as well. But at the same time, I do like the freedom of comic books, but I also enjoy, it's different things about different things. I was thinking about it today. I miss being in a writer's room, like heavy. I really enjoy that process as well. But this was like a writer's room, just going back and forth with Mello, so I enjoy that too. So it just depends. But I love creating in all aspects.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see what happens next.
Cool.
Right.
All right. And then let's see here. One random question. So if you can start the X-Men franchise right now in the MCU, what team would you have to start off?
I've got my.
It's all right. You can cheat.
I
You
want
can look.
Yeah, I don't want to pan to the left, but I got my row of Marvel Legends over here. So of my mutant, I'm building up my whole Krakoa, like three rack shelf over here. It's to be ridiculous once it's all done. All right, I mean, I don't even have to look at the shelf. It's easy for me. It would have to start with Manifold. It has to start and end with Manifold and Latua, and a lot of the Krakoan mutants, Sunspot, Storm, of course, Rogue and Gambit, just because I love them both. Magic, because I love her so much, and Colossus, so we can get that brother-sister drama up in there. Okay. And Kate and Emma, probably.
Okay.
I would probably.
Oh, no Jean, no Cyclops, no Wolverine, no OGs?
If I was personally writing it, I don't know. I might. I mean, I love Jean. I'd probably throw all of them because that is so much drama with just having Jean, Emma, and
Cyclops,
Scott in there.
Yeah, I'm even confused
does
now on the show that's about to drop next week. It's like, who is she pregnant with? Is she pregnant with Cable, or is she pregnant with Hope? In the X-Men '97.
Wow. So Rachel, I know Rachel was in the original cartoon.
Oh yeah.
But who is Rachel by in this? Like, because they never really.
I have no clue.
I don't think. And then remember Madeline Pryor is supposed to be in the show. So people were like, "Is that even Jean who's pregnant, or is that Madeline?"
Yeah. So I don't know. I have no clue. And plus, like the '90s was weird. Like I shouldn't have been watching that show. To be honest,
I didn't watch it that much growing up, and so I'm on the I watched it like sporadically. But now I watched it. I'm on season 4 because there are 5 seasons. So I just started 4 today, and I watched it straight through, and it's interesting.
Because I watched. I think I was like 7 or 8 when it originally came out.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
So every Saturday I would watch it, and then I rewatch things as an adult, and I'm like, what? Like things went way over my head. Grown. Where now they don't. I'm like, they let this go.
They let a lot go on that show. They definitely did let a lot go. There's a lot of innuendo. There's a lot of shit said on that. But
the way Madeline Pryor is dressed and all that, it's like, whoa, like what is going on?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was reading the comics as a kid.
Oh yeah, the comics were crazy. Like I didn't even read the words back then. I was just flipping through the pages. Like it was wild.
Madeline was Jean Grey was the love of my life as a kid.
Had a swimsuit issue. Like why?
Oh yeah, they were you were in the '90s. It was turned up. It was pure smut.
Yeah, it was wild.
The '90s was out of control with Psylocke. It was out. It was out crazy. With Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane. It was out of control. Mary Jane never looked so hot, boy. I never gave a damn about Spider-Man. I've told Todd this to his face. I was like, yo, I did not. And to this day, I get Steve Ditko's great, but I can't look at that. It's Todd McFarlane.
For sure.
I'll never forget the first time I saw it was a 298 when he first came on. My boy had it, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? That's Spider-Man? and that was it. And I bought every
I
issue
think
after
Todd
that.
McFarlane changed Spider-Man forever.
Yeah, and I mean, not think he in the story did, and I told him that I was like, "Yo, bro, I just did not care like about him at all.
Like the movements, the
I
webbing,
read him
like
in
all
crossovers and stuff. Yeah, but when I saw that cover for $298, and then Venom comes in 300, and it was over. I was I bought every McFarlane Spider-Man issue that I could get my hands on for a long time.
And then one last question before we go:
Mm-hmm.
if you could rewrite any storyline ever, what would you rewrite?
Oh no, hell no, I'm not. Because that's disrespectful. I wouldn't, there's like...
I don't know. What would you like change?
Okay, I wouldn't say
Rewrite.
rewrite.
I don't know. What's a nicer way of saying it?
Yeah, I just...
Or, okay,
I mean,
if you
there's
had
no...
any other intellectual property, what would you write? How about that?
Okay, that's a better way of doing it. Yeah, like, because... I mean, like, even, like, let's say with the Krakoa era right now. I was talking about this the other day. I would like to see what Hitman's original plan was. But then at the same time, I know his original plan, it seems, was to turn Moira into the murder robot. I've been disagreeing with that choice. But I want to see how it all plays out, at the same time. But the Moira murder robot was not my choice for how Moira would have gone. But I really didn't have a choice for how Moira would have gone, So, and even to this day, I'm not like, I haven't really sat and thought like, oh, I wonder how would they do it? Because I'm not that type of person, right. Honestly. I don't be like, oh, how would I have done this better? I would have been like, oh, well, that's not my choice. But
because half the time
we'll see what happens.
Never even thought of it.
Yeah, there we go. I would have never thought of Moira. I didn't read that novel that it's based on, obviously, but I would have still never thought of applying that to Moira and giving her 10 lives and making this to 10. I would have never thought of any of that shit. So Hitman's a god. I'm not going to say, because I didn't agree with this choice. The rest of it's godlike. So, sure. I'm not going to, there's so many, though, as far as IPs. The one that I've when I was in Hollywood, and whenever I have a chance, I always ask about who owns the rights, is to Shadowrun. And that it's a role-playing game from the 90s, and they've done it at video games and more role-playing games. There have been a lot of video games of it. The movie Bright with Will Smith was a very bad version of Shadowrun. Okay. It was just like, took everything that made Shadowrun great and just... Because like they try, like what was so mind blowing to me about Shadowrun back then was Shadowrun was the story of how I think it took place in 2014 because it came out in the 90s. So they're like in 2014, basically magic comes back to the world and people start seeing dragons first and things like that. And then the Native Americans are the first people to really tap into magic in America, at least. So they just go buck. Like, they're like, word, we got magic, and they just carve out America and take back the middle of it. And they're like, this is ours again. And then it goes from there, and then elves, orcs, and all these other type things start showing up. But the way they dealt with race and stuff in Shadowrun, where it wasn't some dumb shit like, oh, orcs are like the Mexicans now. It was really ill because it really put people of color at a PowerPoint where it was like, no, they wrecked America after that. It was like, no, the Native Americans controlled this. And then, like, the Japanese came in and bought up most of California. And it was just really an interesting alternate history. I mean, now because we're past that point that they told. And I really would love to work in that.
For sure.
Yeah, I was distrusted with Bright because it just ruined it. And now it's like, if you put Shadowrun out, people will be like, oh, you're biting Bright, when it's the opposite.
People don't know.
Yeah, and it was so well done. It was dope.
Makes
but
sense.
That, and then I'd love to write X-Men, man. Honestly, yeah, I'd love to write. And there's so many Marvel characters, that I grew up reading that I would, even obscure ones. People like Longshot, I would die to write. Jack of Hearts is one of my favorites. There's a lot of Marvel stuff the New Mutants, Power Pack.
I think there's a Power Pack comic going on right now.
I know. I got to check it out. I think I read one issue because I heard it's like back to the Power Pack that I grew up loving. So I'd have to check that. Kieran Gillen's, he didn't see that thing. Like, he didn't and I wouldn't ever have an idea for it. Like, I love Wicked and Divine. That's one of my favorite comics, but I think it's perfect. And it was kind of meant where it's like, don't write more of this. Write something else. And so that's something else that I want to say real quick is like, that's why I'm really proud of Hendrix, is it's not an established IP. You know, it is this new universe. We created all these characters. We created whole worlds that have whole systems of government, and there's a much larger overarching story told beyond what I just talked about when I was talking about how Hendrix goes on his own personal journey. There's this bigger story that he gets caught up in that is, when I finish telling people the story that, you know, we tell in this book, where they're like, well, you know, that's not it, right? I'm like, yeah, because it's a much bigger universe than that. And that was the point, was we wanted to, you know, it's something that Kieran Gillen and other writers that I really admire always talk about. They're like, yeah, you can write for Marvel, you can write for DC, but you should also be writing things that are new and creating new stories. So eventually people can write new Hendrix universe stories if they want, you know. So that's what I'm really proud of, is that something we really did here.
Maybe someone gets inspired and does Prince one day.
And you know, and they meet up. Oh, I mean, I can't give shit away, but we, you know, like I say, this is a story about black music, and there's a lot of Easter eggs. I'll say that. There's a lot, I mean, and there's a lot of personal Easter eggs, but there's a whole lot of it. It goes beyond rock and roll. It spans the whole breadth of black music. That was something I wanted to talk about. How I don't really believe, that's something, another whole conversation, but I really don't believe in genre. I think genre is mainly a racist thing, and there's just music, and there's just black music, really. And then you give it different names, and genres mainly determined by race and technology is one of my main theories. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah. So by racism and technology, not by race.
True.
Let's be for real. So, but one more last thing I wanted to say is I said this earlier, and we, not only does Hendrix go on this journey in this story, we created these two other characters, Vesper and Raina. You can see one of them on the cover of the book, and they both have they're two sisters who are related to Hendrix in this story, and they, not related family-wise, but they're intertwined in his story. And they have their own arcs that I really love. They are two of my favorite characters, and I would love to write more of them. So, you know, God willing, people buy this book in mass, and, you know, it becomes the hit that I want it to be, and we get to write more in this universe, because I would love to write. Their story is definitely, I already know where they're going.
Sure.
So I would love to tell it.
I'll definitely read it. So that is it. Thank you again for hanging out with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Like, this talk has been great. Like, like I said, I've been watching you guys forever. It's like an honor to have you here. So again, let everyone know where they can pre-order Hendrix. I'll put it in the description below as well, and then also where they can find you, DJ Benhameen.
All right. Well, you'll put it in the description. So yeah, we actually shout out to Anyone Comics. They're my local comic book store in Brooklyn, and me and the owner Dimitri are working together. I'm gonna do a signing there, because the book drops July 30th, so we're looking to do a signing there either the 30th or the 31st, not 100% sure yet, but if you're in New York City, make sure you come through for that. And we're also doing a limited run of signed copies straight from Anyone Comics, and they will ship them nationwide, so we'll put the link in the show description so you can get that. It's also in my bio on pretty much all social media where you can follow me. That's DJ Benhameen, DJ BenHameen, on pretty much everything, DJ Benhameen. And if you follow me, the links for everything is on there. I also do music. I started producing house music and dance music a few years back, or about 2 years back, and I started releasing music. It'll be 2 years of production around July, and then I started releasing earlier this year. So nice. I've got a few tracks. You can also check them out on my social media. Make sure you follow For All Nerds, at For All Nerds. Like you said, we're the geek and pop culture brand that you should know. We're two black people, both Howard University graduates. Shout out to HU as always. And we just taught that ish. We interview all kind of people. We're actually building up some new interviews this year. We ain't done some interviews in a minute, so got some new interviews. We, spoke at the Smithsonian last year. We've been doing a few things. Things happen. Yeah. So make sure you follow us at For All Nerds. I'm sure you'll love us. It's, you know, as this brother right here does. So
sure.
you know, he's got good taste.
Yeah.
You know.
So that is it, guys. Remember, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Till next time, peace.